Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Here we are from 6th group of Microteaching subject. We'll explain you all about our topic today with the title The Difference Between Learning Method and Technique. My name is Rida Nurmala and I'm here as the first speakers today. Would like to explain about learning method. And here the outlines. The first is definition of learning method. And second, types of learning methods, definition of learning technique, and last is the difference between learning method and technique. So I would like to explain you all about learning method. What is a learning method? When we say learning method, this is a set of orderly, logically arranged in steps in teaching. So these are steps in teaching that are orderly. That means they are arranged properly and they are arranged based on logic. So when we are talking about teaching method, this means it is more procedural. What's your procedure? What do you do first? What comes next? Do we give homework? Do we start with a review instead of motivations? Things like this. So, set of orderly, logically arranged steps in teaching, and it is more procedural. Now, we will start with the comparison of those teaching methods that are very commonly used inside the classroom. The first two that we have here are inductive versus deductive method of teaching. When we say inductive method and in teaching, we start from the specific and we guide the student towards making generalizations. But when we say deductive method, it's the opposite. So we start with the general and we go back to the specific. So again, inductive is from specific or the examples to general, while deductive from general to the specific or to the examples. The second thing, we are going to be comparing the direct method of teaching and the indirect method of teaching. When we say direct method, this is actually teacher-centered. So we think of the teacher as the sage on stage. Sage here means expert. So the teacher is the one that drives the learning. The teacher is the one who talks too much, who talks a lot inside the classroom. The students who just be learning from the teacher. Okay, so that's the direct teaching method. It's teacher salary, the teacher is a sage on stage. Well, when we say indirect teaching method, it is student-centered. The teacher becomes just a guide on the side. So the teachers become just a facilitator of learning. So when indirect teaching method, the students discover things, discover concepts on his or her own. The next teaching method that we have is lecture. We are all very familiar with all this, since this is a very traditional method of teaching. So when we say a lecture, the teacher talks a lot. The lecture method is used when the teacher doesn't have enough time. So this is the method that we use in review centers. Okay, so the teacher will just be giving lectures, will just be talking non-stop. The next thing that we have is discussion method. We know the meaning of that discussion is. We share ideas with one another, we discuss things, we talk about certain things, we talk about theories, we talk about concepts, we talk about topics. Okay, so that's its discussion teaching method. The next one is reporting. So usually when we say reporting, this is a type of lecture. But in this case, the students are the one who are giving lectures, so that's reporting method. The next one is demonstration. This is a teacher-led type of teaching method. So the teacher would usually show the student how to do things, how things are done. That's the demonstration, and the students are just made to observe. But sometimes the students are also given a chance to do things on their own. So after the teacher demonstrated it, the students can also be given a chance to try doing things on their own. Next is self-pacing. As what the word suggests of pacing, this means the students is learning on her own or his own at their own pace. The students can use their own schedule. The next type of teaching method is investigatory. The students here will be performing investigations. It can be case studies, for example. but the students will be coming up with research, with questions. They'd be dealing with trying to answer these questions in their investigations. The last one is integrated, which is also called blended teaching. So teaching of one subject is related to teaching of another subject. So that's all from me. The next material will be delivered by Nadia.
And the third material is about definition of learning technique. Learning technique can be defined as the way a person implements a specific method. The learning technique is the teacher's way of delivering technique material that have been compiled or in the method based on approach adopted. The technique used by the teacher depend on the teacher's ability or tactic so that the learning process can run smoothly and successful. The learning technique is the way that the teacher implements a specific method. For example, the use of the discussion method. It is necessary to use different techniques in the classes where students are classified active, with classes whose students are classified as passive. Various kinds of learning techniques include direction technique, conversation technique, project technique, problem-solving technique, acquisition technique, games technique, and in the last, cooperative technique. The purpose of learning technique is that teaching can be delivered in accordance with environmental conditions, student condition, teacher and student abilities. And learning can take place in a varied manner in a pleasant, joyful atmosphere, and so that the material delivered by the teacher is right on the target according the circumstance and abilities of student.
The difference between learning method and technique. The learning method is more procedural, which contains certain stage, while the technique is the way used and is implementative, which is directly practiced in the reality of learning in the classroom. So it is very possible that the method used are the same but the technique used are different, resulting in different learning outputs. So, learning method is a method that is actually taken and implemented to achieve the learning target. In its implementation, the method is influenced by various elements such as student participation, while the selection of learning method is usually determined based on the difficulty level of the material presented. This doesn't mean that the higher the difficulty level of the material, the better the method used, because basically each method has advantages and disadvantages. The teacher must be able to read the situation and choose the appropriate method for delivering certain material. For example, if we are a math teacher and teach using the lecture method, it is certain that students will feel bored because mathematics should be taught optimally if it is practiced. Therefore, the method applied is a student-centered learning or student-oriented learning. Learning techniques are more focused, strict, and they are implementation in the method as a plan so that the teaching and learning process can run smoothly. When we as a teacher has determined that we want to use a collaborative method with a scientific approach, for example, we must develop a strategy in the form of techniques and learning steps accordance with the method we choose. We can see another example of the application of teaching techniques in the lecture learning method. Teachers require different teaching technique when dealing with class with small, medium, and dense population.
I think that's all from us. Thank you for your nice attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.